So let's just get started with our first question first. Okay, so first up, we just wanted to have our panelists give a short introduction for themselves. So let's just start with um and correct me if I'm wrong about your names. Akila from Queen's Health Science. Would you like to start us off?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Akila. I am in my second year of health sci at Queens. Is that like all you need from me? Or
Um, yeah, that sounds good.
okay, great.
All right, awesome. Melanie, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Melanie. I go to Harvard. I'm a second year and I'm studying applied math and I'm pre-med.
Hmm. Thank you. Natalia, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Natalia. I'm studying chemistry and physics at Harvard, not on the pre-med track, but planning to go to grad school.
Awesome. Thanks, Natalia. Maria, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Maria. I'm a third year at Waterloo and I'm studying software engineering.
Awesome. And finally, Purana.
Hi, my name is Prerna, and I'm in my first year at U of T for engineering science.
All right, awesome. Thank you all panelists for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have you all here. So first up, we'd just like to know, why did you choose to attend your university and your specific program there? So I think we'll just go in the order of introduction. So Akila, if you'd like to start us off.
Yeah, for sure. So I chose to go to Queens specifically for health sci because I loved the model of how they teach you content. So we use a flipped classroom style where you learn mostly from modules, and class time is focused on kind of applying the knowledge that you learn. That kind of style really interested me because I could go and learn content at my own pace and I wouldn't be rushing during lectures trying to take my notes down. It just worked better for my learning style. And I'm also on a pre-med track, so health science was just like a program that I was interested in. I love my classes, so I guess that's why I kind of chose Queens.
That's awesome to hear. Melanie, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so when I was picking schools, I was really looking at what school would prepare me most for the career trajectory I wanted to have in the future. And I felt that Harvard would introduce me to more people that I could use as networking and be better connected for being employed later on. I always knew I wanted to be pre-med, so when I was picking my program in particular, I also knew that medical schools don't really require you to be on a life sciences or health sciences major, and I really loved math. And just in case I got weeded out of pre-med or I decided that that's not what I wanted to do in my life, I wanted to have a fail-safe, and that was math because I really enjoy learning it.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like an awesome plan. Natalia?
So I chose Harvard because it has everything that I want in a school. Like, for example, for grad school, I want to go into like nuclear engineering. But I also want the liberty of, because it is a liberal arts school, the college, I want the liberty of exploring things that I might be interested in. Like I'm getting a secondary in Latino studies, and I feel like that wouldn't really happen at a more STEM focused school, at least not to the same quality of education, but in the same like sort of logic, I can cross-register with MIT and take their nuclear engineering classes because we don't have that as a major. And I could do work at the Center for Astrophysics, which is like a leading institution in the field. And also we still have the engineering department here, which takes on more of a liberal arts approach. And so it's really just and I love Boston. It's really just a combination of everything that I need in an institution. And so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Maria, would you like to also?
So the reason why I chose Waterloo for software engineering is co-op and reputation. I think their co-op program is worthless, and if you're somebody in tech who's looking to be employed after undergrad, having that experience early on is priceless. Not only because you're going to get work experience and you're going to be ahead of everyone when you graduate, but also because you get to learn so much about yourself and whether or not you chose the right career for yourself. I've had 3 co-ops as of my first year. I'm currently on co-op as well. And I learned so much about what I like to do for work, how I like to work, where I like to work. And I already have such an understanding of where I see myself going and being after university that if I didn't have this right now, I know for sure I would have spent at least 2, 3 years figuring that out after I graduated. And now I don't have to do that because I know exactly what I want to pursue and look forward to. And the reason why I chose software engineering, and I guess I could say the same for computer science because they're closely related, is because that field gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of what industry you want to work in. I never knew exactly like what kind of setting I see myself working in, but having experience in computer science or software engineering lets you work in finance industries, it lets you work in medical industries, scientific industries, commerce, like all those wonderful things that you could try because you have this flexibility. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to stick to one thing in particular and wants to have an ability to pursue different things, uh, computer science, software engineering, coding related things could be a good idea for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important. Thank you. Priyana, would you also like to share your insights?
Yeah, for sure. So, I chose engineering science, mainly because of the specialist majors. They have unique majors that I don't believe any other school really has, with the aerospace, biomedical systems, robotics. So you can really deep dive into something. And I also don't know exactly what I wanted. Like, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. And with EngSci, it's kind of broad for 2 years. They kind of deep dive into everything. So I like that element of it because of the fact that I don't know what I want to do, so I can try everything out. I also think it's reputed for being extremely challenging. And I think with the way kind of the world is going now, it's really important to be able to build a skill of like thinking outside of the box, taking that unconventional path. I think NSci really forces you to do that, and to be okay with not knowing because you never know what's going on, like ever in this program. Every lecture you're lost. And I think although it can be frustrating like in the moment, um, you really end up learning a lot in the longer run. And it is definitely it teaches you like things that I believe that like most schools don't teach you. And it can feel kind of useless in terms of like the longer run, maybe your industry application, but it builds that skill of like critical thinking and that mental muscle, as my prof calls it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, all of you guys are in such programs that also like challenge you guys and are also so rigorous. And we find it really inspiring that you chose to head in that direction. And that leads to our next kind of sub question, which is that if there are any programs that are similar to yours, any programs that you might have been considering while applying to university, why did you end up ultimately choosing your program over that? So if any panelists have anything specific that they want to share, just feel free to raise up your hand. Um, if not, then we'll just go in the order from before. Akila, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. So, I feel like this is kind of common, but I was also considering Mac Health Sci and then Western Med Sci before choosing Queens. I think, well, one, because I didn't get into Mac Health Sci, that was like one factor. So I guess I kind of chose between Western and Queens. I just liked the environment at Queens better, and it had a more focus on like anatomy, physiology, which I was more interested in compared to like the math and physics aspect, which was stronger in med sci. I do like those subjects. I just wanted to get more experience in like anatomy and physiology a little bit better. And I also really liked, as I said before, the flipped classroom style that was offered at Queens. So I think that's kind of those factors were kind of why I just ultimately chose Queens over other programs.
Yeah. And it's great that you like knew all those insights also heading in before choosing Queens because I think it's hard for high school students to know what they're going into. Yeah. Melanie, do you also have any specific
Yeah.
programs you were thinking of?
So I always knew I was going to major in something related to math, but for me, I had a difficult time choosing what university to go to. Similarly, I was deciding between three schools. I was deciding between MIT and then Brown has a BSMD program, so that called PLEMI, where they pick 50 students and we immediately get into medical school after undergrad. So that decision was very difficult for me to make because they're all great schools. Um, and ultimately, what made me decide was I'm a very big believer in you have to pick what school feels right for you. And after visiting each school, I felt more at home at Harvard, regardless of if I could have had, let's say, an easier or more direct path at another school. So I think that people have to trust themselves when they're deciding where they think that their future will, which path will lead them on their best future outlook. Yes, that makes sense, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's great insight for people no matter what kind of major they're going into. So thanks for sharing that. T Natalia?
Um, so I was deciding between here and Berkeley because I never really had too much interest in them, but I really liked their MET program, which meant that I would have been able to get an aerospace degree from their engineering school, but also a business degree from their business school. And although like the and it's like a very tight-knit program as well, so it's like employment was guaranteed or whatever. And I think for me it was like, okay, there's this really straightforward path here, and if I'm 100% set on like just going into like the industry, then that would have been something that I probably would have chosen. But I knew that I wanted to explore different things, and also I just like I visited both schools and I didn't really because I'm from Southern California and I'm not the biggest fan of Northern California. And I was thinking, well, I'm not too sure if I even want to go into industry. I kind of want to go to at the time I was still like just considering grad school. And I remember talking to one of the seniors in the program and they were like, honestly, like if you're gonna go to grad school, this is gonna tank your GPA for no reason. And I don't like Northern California, and I love Boston. And also, Harvard gave me significantly more financial aid than Berkeley did. And that was my top priority. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think all of those factors are really important for all students, especially like the financial aid part. I think maybe for like Melanie and Natalia, I think maybe a lot of high school students have some worries about applying to specifically large schools like the Ivies because they fear the financial burden that it may have on them. But in reality, the financial aid that you might get could be valuable, right?
Yeah, can I add something on that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
A lot of times like top 20 schools usually do have better financial aid just because they have the funding for it. Personally, all of like the state schools that I applied to gave me horrible financial aid compared to Harvard. So if that's a fear, hopefully it shouldn't be because they really do give great financial aid from what I've heard by a majority of students.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
so sorry. Just to add to that, um, I think with every institution, you can like sort of rebuttal your package. I know with Harvard, like I had gotten a full ride last year, and this year they're going through a lot of like funding cuts and whatnot. But I was very adamant that I was not gonna pay for college. And so I basically argued with my admission, like my financial aid officer over email, and it's fine. So yeah, hopefully that shouldn't be too much of a worry. Um, And even like at any institution, you can still argue it.
Yeah, for sure. Before we move on to finish discussion with the other panelists, I just want to introduce Allison since she just popped in. Allison, would you like to introduce yourself, your name, your year or your grade, and your university and program?
Hi, yeah, my name is Allison. I'm at McMaster Health Sciences, and this is my second year. I did this last year as well with Superposition, and we have to extend my thank yous to the team for being so accommodating this morning. And I'm really excited to answer these questions and meet the other panelists who are amazing people. So,
Oh, I think you're muted.
yeah.
Sorry, we're so excited to have you here. We are just discussing like why our panelists have chosen to go in the program in their specific programs and what kind of makes their program unique. Yeah. Okay, so I think we'll continue with Maria. Oh wait,
So
yeah, sorry.
okay, so for me, I was applying to a bunch of places across Canada, but my first choice has always been Waterloo Software Engineering, and my second choice has always been U of T Computer Science, particularly in their St. George campus. And I got into both, and I was sure I was going to go with software engineering. But then I also got like the national scholarship for U of T. So I got to go to U of T for free, like everything covered, like tuition for all the years. I could have gone for exchange for free. I didn't have to pay for residence. Like that would have been like crazy if I actually did that. But at moments like that, you first of all have to understand what you would value in your program, what you would choose if funding wasn't a problem, and like what you're actually looking for to get out of your program. And then, as somebody already mentioned, you also have to visit the campus and like realistically understand, do you see yourself being here for the next 4 years, thriving, growing, and like enjoying your studies? So for me, funding initially wasn't a problem. Like I knew that I had a way to pay for school, and especially like if I were to go, and I am going to Waterloo, which is per year is more expensive. Like I also have co-op, so even if I was completely living on my own, I would have had enough money that I made from co-op to pay for rent, to pay for school, and to pay for all the other necessities. So funding wasn't the problem. So then you got to ask yourself, okay, funding isn't the problem, and isn't out of the question is out of the question, where would I go still? Like would I, if I were to just compare programs like side by side, what would I like better, what would work better for me? And based on my values and what I was looking for, Waterloo was working better for me than U of T. Plus I did visit both schools and I did feel more at home at Waterloo. um, I feel like U of T has a lot of things going on, and if you're like very like outgoing and like to try new things and like have a lot of interest in hobbies, and U of T would probably be a great school for me. When I was in grade 12, was like a little more quiet and like a little introverted, and I didn't like crazy big places. I never lived in a big city. I'm also from Waterloo. I probably should mention that. So I am living at home, but U of T, U Waterloo felt like a safer like school for me where I knew I could exactly focus on my studies, not be distracted, and kind of not have to go too much out of my comfort zone and put my studies first. So that's what worked better for me. Um, and I think I already mentioned this, but Waterloo has their co-op program, and to me that was like a crazy big factor that I thought was more important than anything else. So that is why I ended up going with it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, Pirana, would you like to finish us off with this question? Oh wait, and then Allison, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually deciding between U of T Engineering Science and Waterloo Software. And I chose U of T Eng Sci again for the broad element of it. I think it's you can do really you can do so much with I think the broad engineering. You can do work in if you like look at even with the specializations. Um work in like Mac, you can go into like you can do it with anything really. But with the courses that we learn and the depth that we go into, and the way that we are forced to think about everything around us, like from like how forces in members of a trust are calculated to like fundamentals of programming to like everything. And in a sense, yes, it's a lot. You can't do everything perfectly, but being exposed to all of it really allows you to decide what stands out to you. And I really like that element of it. And I also I think talking to seniors or sorry, individuals who are in the program is really, really valuable. So don't be afraid to like just like reach out to like obviously anybody here probably and anybody on even on LinkedIn or people you know from your school because talking to someone who's in it really will tell you about like what the nature of the program is. So just talking to one of my friends who was doing his first year at the time I was applying, um, it sounded like the place that I'd want to be. Like, you know, the people, the community, even the professors are really, really good. And the content is quite rigorous in nature. I'm not a theoretical person, but engineering science kind of making me one of those people, and I think there is always value in it. Um, I even was deciding between business and computer science at Waterloo as well, just my original thought process. But yeah, it was a little bit of a different route here. But I think there's a lot of value in what we're learning, even if it seems kind of very kind of deep dive and theoretical in nature, because it also opens up the path to grad school and research at U of T is amazing. So if you want to go into research or anything kind of that like that related to that, it's really good. The community is big here. I also think you can find your tight-knit groups here. I'm not too much of an extrovert, but I would say yeah, there's like the big crazy element of UT for sure. But there's also like, especially with NSATs, more I feel like it's more of a tight-knit community. So you, even though there's like 100 and something people in your class, you still kind of know everybody at one point, which is kind of nice. And everyone's on the same boat trying to survive. So you all just kind of empathize. And I also am from Toronto, so I'm not living at home though. I'm living Chestnut because um, yeah, I did pursue the national scholarship, so that did play a major role for me as well. But yeah, I really like it here, and it's a really good community. And yeah.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Allison, would you like to also share?
Yeah, so when it comes to health sci, I think the greatest thing about it for my like past year is that it's a very small niche community. And I think a lot of programs, when they're really large, it's difficult to build a support system in there. But the great thing about health sciences is because we're so small, every year wants to continuously give back to each other. You can really build connections. And I think someone was saying earlier, like, don't be afraid to reach out to your upper years and just ask them for help at any time. That's definitely the culture in health sciences. Everyone is so willing to help each other. It's amazing, which really, the worst thing that people can say is no if you reach out to them. But most of the time, it's a really supportive community, which I personally find really interesting. In terms of deciding which science program I wanted to go into, I know that there's a lot of differentiations between health science, biomedical sciences, life sciences. I would say in general, health sciences focuses a little bit more on the social community aspect of health sciences. So it's not necessarily just crunching the numbers or doing the chemistry, but it's more about, how does this have implications on your community? Are you thinking of this in the right mindset that would make sure to be inclusive, to make sure you're being considerate of all different perspectives? And to me, that's what I really like about health sciences is that you're getting both like the sciencey side, you can take orgo if you want. A lot of my friends are doing that right now. You're still integrated in anatomy, which I'm taking right now, but you're also getting the aspect of reflection and, really growing yourself to be a better, more impactful member of community that can consider all these other different social determinants that are not necessarily addressed in other sciencey programs. In terms of extracurriculars in high school, I honestly, when doing the application, you're not referencing them most of the time. I'm sure if you guys have looked at the questions this year, they've diverted a bit because our year was discussing a lot more about your character and personal things to you. I think this year the questions have a very direct approach where they want you to answer a specific thing. And in so discussing your own personal accolades are not necessarily what they're looking for. And I think often the convention is that people think health sciences wants you to show off all your attributes and your skills and whatnot that you've accumulated throughout the years. Really, what they're looking for is to make sure that you're going into this program with the correct mindset to foster community and be more about yourself in an individualistic perspective and contribute back to those that are around you. So make sure that when you're applying to this program and you're writing your application, even thinking, am I fit for this program? Right? Are you someone who's well-rounded? Do you consider more than just one perspective? Are you open-minded? And these are the things that really cultivate someone who's not only a great worker in healthcare, but also someone who's really willing to thrive in this program. In terms of the program itself and like financial aid, I know I think what was the most general thing for entrance scholarship was just if you're in the top 10%, you get an extra $2,000, but as long as you have like above a 90 or 95, then you get 1,000. And then there are different things that you can apply for, like interfaculty after that. But in terms of the community and, getting acquainted with it, you're still integrated with a lot of general sciences and whatnot. So even though you do have that small community you can rely on, there's still, a multitude of people that you can meet from different programs as well that are able to connect with you on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much for your answer. And I think that actually kind of also answers our next question, which is what advice would you give to students applying to your program right now? So like we have a lot of students who are applying right now. Do you have any advice for them? Let's start with Akila again.
Yeah, for sure. I guess there's a few things I could give advice on based on my own experience applying to the programs I was interested, so health sciences programs. I would say just be, especially when it comes to supplementary applications, don't try to craft a version of yourself you think the admissions officers are looking for. Just be your genuine self and show genuine interest. That like they're able to tell. Like even at university, when I'm talking to professors or upper year students, people say like they're able to tell if you're being fake. So I guess just be like really genuine and try your best. That comes across a lot stronger than like crafting a fake version of yourself. I'd also say if you have online interviews or an online component to your applications, make sure you practice questions because even if you think you're able to answer proficiently, practice will always guarantee that you're able to do your best effort possible. And the extracurricular activities, etc., they only strengthen your application. I will say don't feel pressure to do absolutely everything under the sun to strengthen your application. They're just more of a supplemental to the supplemental. They're really good for like if you're especially looking for financial aid or scholarships at different universities. They ask a lot about your extracurricular activities. There are some scholarships and financial aid programs that are kind of designed not designed, but like geared towards specific people who do specific extracurriculars. So if you're looking for that or you're planning to do that, I will definitely recommend doing like extracurricular activities that you're interested in.
Yeah, for sure. Allison, is there anything you'd also like to add on?
Yeah, so in terms of applying to your program, I think people are really in their heads about calling it like a pre-med thing. But like I said earlier, the application is really just to gauge how you think, and that will be cultivated through the different experiences that you accumulate in partaking in these different accolades. So even though you may not necessarily mention your experience with HOSA or maybe doing research or maybe doing a business presentation, it will show that you're developing your character throughout these different experiences, and it'll contribute to the nuance that you have when you answer these questions. And so really just make sure that you're demonstrating like I have this unique perspective, or it doesn't even have to be unique. Just make sure that you're being your 100% true authentic self and you're not trying to convey what they think, but who you are as a person, and that genuineness will be valued so much more above anything else. And it definitely shows when you meet the people in this program, and they really are amazing because they're 100% their authentic self, and those are the people that they're really keeping an eye out for, like being unapologetically you. So exactly what was said earlier. So
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for also contributing. Melanie, is there anything you'd also like to say?
I'm really just gonna second what's already been said. Write about what makes you passionate, even if you have very different extracurriculars like Model UN and like science extracurriculars, like you could always tie it in together about like why are you passionate about both?
Yeah. I think we're running a little bit short on time. So if our panelists, is there anything else that you guys would like to add? Feel free to just unmute. Otherwise, I think we'll just move on to the next question.
I can add something about Waterloo software engineering because I think what they're looking for in their application is quite different, like from what you might be thinking you should write about when you're applying to like a health sci program, for example, or like I guess any other program. Um, so I think so. Waterloo software engineering in particular, I'm not going to speak for CS because they're looking at slightly different things. But software engineering is like a co-op program. Like you have to work every 4 months and be in school every other 4 months. If you don't find a co-op more than one time, you get kicked out. Like I'm pretty sure there aren't like alternatives. Like they really, really, really want you to be employed. If you don't get employed, then the reputation goes down. And the university has to find the resources to get you employed within, which is more effort on their side. So when they're looking to admit people, they're essentially looking at their employability. And if you're applying to software engineering in particular, they even want you to have previous experience programming before you apply to the program, which is kind of crazy because like you're applying there to learn how to code, but they already want you to have that experience. Unlike with CS, like they say coding is an asset, but like you're not required to have past experience to apply to that program. So when you're writing your application, you really want to not brag, but you want to make it clear I have this technical experience from these opportunities. Like I have these technical skills and I have these soft skills that would make me stand out. You don't want to explicitly say this will make me stand out when I'm going to be applying to jobs, but you want to make it clear that you will be employable once you get admitted. And that's really what they're looking for, especially with the job market right now. It's not doing so good and it's really hard for people to find their first co-op. So you really, really want to make them believe you that you have what it takes to get a job and that you have what it takes to succeed academically because it is also really not easy in the first 2 years in the program. You have a really tight schedule. Not only do you have to find time to do decently well in all your courses, which is already stressful enough because you're going to have your first exams, your first midterms, you also have to find time to apply to jobs, do all the assessments that those jobs send you, do the interviews, perfect your resume, talk to people, network with people, and that's a lot of time management. So don't only like make them believe that you can be employable, also make them believe that you're going to stay in the program because it's so much work that goes into it, and they want to know that you're going to be able to handle that and all the stress that comes with it. So hopefully that helps people.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay. But like right now, since we're getting close to the Q&A session, if any audience members would like to just send in their questions now, we'll read them out during Q&A. In the meantime, let's get a few more questions for the panelists. So now we just like to ask, are there any particular extracurriculars that each of you guys did that you thought really helped you with your experience or getting you to choose your program or just like was or helpful to admissions in general? And I think we'll start with Akila.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was choosing my program, my biggest like kind of priority was making sure I chose the right one and good fit for me. So I wanted to make sure that I had an interest in health sciences and I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. So in high school, especially the last 2 years, I did a lot of volunteering. I worked at a doctor's office. I tried to I got a little bit into research. So just things that I would be expected to do in university if I was planning on going to med school. So just getting more involved in those kind of activities kind of solidified my interest in the field that I was going into. And it also really helped me when I was doing applications as I could talk from my own experience about why I wanted to go to that program specifically. Um, Yeah, that's kind of it. So I guess like just do extracurriculars that you're both interested in and solidify your interest in whatever field you want to go to. That being said, you don't have to do everything health related if you want to go into health because you want to be able to talk about things you're doing with passion and really be able to craft a story for yourself about why you're going into that specific program. So I guess like extracurriculars like volunteering or like, you know, doing a part-time job or joining clubs in school. Like I was involved a lot in school. So things like that really show like your capability, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Allison?
Yeah, so Akila definitely hit the nail on the head. I think it's really important that you get a taste of it. In health sci, well, you're not expected to, but the general route that a lot of people take is a lot of community-based things such as clubs or volunteering. And on top of that, research is definitely a key component. Nothing is necessarily necessary per se. I think that the great thing about this program is that it's full of so many diverse backgrounds that come from a multitude of experiences. But particularly with health sciences, if you are getting a grab of what your future may look like within this program, or even after when you do your master's, definitely recommend getting involved with things like HOSA, which might be a little bit related about the types of discussions that you may be having in this program, or perhaps doing things like community work, which is really heavily implicated in health sciences itself. And one thing, like I said before, that was really notable about health sciences is that there's a lot of reflection, sorry. So definitely making sure that you're doing things and at the end of the day, really sitting yourself down and thinking like, what do I take away from this? Like, how has this made me a better person? What have I learned? And what are the things that I can do next time? If you really apply that mindset to any kind of extracurricular that you're doing, that gratitude and that ability to reflect on yourself to really ameliorate your own habits or your personality will show through your application and really into this program. So,
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Melanie?
Yeah, my answer is a bit different because in high school I did very diverse extracurriculars. I was in immigration reform groups, I did theater, and a bunch of volunteering, but my extracurriculars weren't necessarily fully science-based. And then I do agree that I just, in my application, I tailored a lot of my extracurriculars to what skills I learned from them. People, like problem solving skills, building community, different things like that. But I will say one thing that helped me is for rigorous, if you're applying to rigorous universities, prestigious ones, ones that are very competitive, it does help to have a standout extracurricular that is also like almost has a name or a competition aspect to it. That's why there's the awards section in the application. It does help make you stand out. I know me and Natalia both did MITES, which is an MIT program, which I'm so grateful to getting into that program in the first place because it taught me a lot about both math and like career aspects and getting into university and everything like that. So even though I had very diverse extracurriculars, I think that program in particular helped me a lot in my application.
Yeah. And I think that is a very like reputable and prestigious program. And I'm glad to hear that you found a lot of helpful things with that program. Natalia?
Yeah, so as Melanie mentioned, I also did mites. I was able to go and do mite semester, so I was on my MIT's campus the summer before
My summer.
mite summer, the summer before my senior year, and that was really good because at first I actually wasn't even considering Harvard, because it felt a little unobtainable, but I remember we toured it during the program and I just fell in love with the campus and I was like, maybe I should look into this. Like, you know, the worst that could happen is I get rejected and that's it. And so yeah, I think MITES was definitely a program. Even now, I'm an online facilitator for them, like for their semester program, just because I love the program so much and I always pitch it because it's a great thing.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, for sure. Maria?
For my extracurriculars, I try to be pretty well-rounded because I know that something that makes you stand out is you can be crazy smart, but so is everybody else who's applying. But if you're well-rounded and you show that you kind of do everything that there is to do on the table, like you're social, you volunteer, you participate in debate clubs, you can speak for yourself, you do STEM, like all of those things make you look like a really good applicant. And not only that, like it develops your interests and makes you grow as a person. And the other thing I also focused on in my extracurriculars is I try to find opportunities or make opportunities to show that I have coding experience. So something that I did in high school was I started a club. It was called the Web Development Club, WCI Web Dev. That club wasn't there before, and it wasn't a computer science club either. So it allowed me to show leadership and actually work on projects that I later like talked about on my applications. Something that I'm really proud of that happened in that club is I pitched to my school to remake their extracurriculars website. Sorry, to make an extracurriculars website for them. They didn't have one before. And I just went to talk to the teacher and then the principal, and they were like, "That would be so cool." Not only would they have an extracurriculars website, it would also be made by their own students who would also be able to talk about it on their resumes or talk about it on their application. So we actually did end up making it and finishing it. I don't know if it's still in use today, but I was a big hit on my application and I talked about it in every single interview for a scholarship or a university that I had. Uh, I also did debate because I think that it prepared me a lot for literally all the interviews I ever had ever since I got decent at debate. The the amount of help that public speaking can bring to you when it comes to advocating for yourself or making a first impression is really important. So if you have the opportunity to to be good at something like public speaking or just speaking in general, take that initiative. It's really going to pay you back. Um, and also, I did a lot of STEM initiatives. I did science fairs, science competitions, um, mainly out of interest, but also because I knew that's something that a lot of people who got admitted into my program had on their applications. So I was just like a little advantage. I also saw a question in the chat about the program that I'm in. Can I just answer it now? So, for all of their engineering programs, including software engineering, Waterloo does not look at your math contest scores unless you specifically talk about it in your application, which you don't have to do. But for computer science, they do look at them and they do consider them. So, if you don't do extremely well on them, they will see that and you can't opt out of it. So, I guess if you know you're not going to do really well and like you're in grade 12 or grade 11, you might consider not doing them because they might punch you in the back later on.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering that. Prirana, I think we're just gonna finish off with you before getting into the Q&A session.
For sure. Again, I'm just gonna reiterate, don't curate anything for somebody in particular. I would say always try to um put um like whatever your interests are, kind of find out how they connect to shape who you are and what you want to do. You don't need to per se do anything specifically for the admissions officers, because like that like what was mentioned before, they can kind of tell when you're not really being your true self, even through the video interviews and everything. It's just like I feel like they've been seeing a lot of it, so they know. So be kind of be yourself. It's very cliche, but it is, I think, it plays a big role, especially in your scholarship interviews as well. Um, and for engineering, I would say a lot of it is like you need to talk about your extracurriculars. There's a lot of supplemental stuff. So try to take part in things that you truly enjoy, because that when you do that, you can really reflect how much you love it, like in your interviews and in your application. It'll be a lot more like honest, I would say. And Yeah, I also just want to add on too. I didn't like for the math contest question, that was like a big stress factor I had too, especially because I applied to CS, BBA, and software. And I would say like, don't worry about doing bad on it. Because I literally didn't even do Euclid, like because I just saw that and I was like, no, I choose happiness. And I like failed every math contest like ever that Waterloo had. Like I did so bad, it's not even funny. Um but it did work out. So you don't necessarily need that. It can help for sure because they do look at it. But I just want to kind of put that at ease. Like you don't need anything in particular. It can help, but don't put that stress on yourself. If you truly love that program, you really see yourself there, that will come across. So yeah, nothing is for sure, but don't put that stress on yourself because grade 12 is already really stressful. So I definitely want to put that out there because I was going through that as well. But yeah, just do what you love. If it's something in the arts or even like something like school play or DECA or whatever it is, like do what you love, but then try to see how that fits into the degree you're trying to pursue, and really try to work on your essays and your like the questions for your supplementals early on so that you're able to articulate why you're doing what you're doing and who you are in a sense early on and kind of deliver the best possible answer to their questions as you can before the deadlines.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your insights. So now we're just gonna move into the Q&A session. For this part, we're only gonna ask the questions to one or two of the panelists. So if any of the panelists feel that they have an answer that they want to share, please feel free to just unmute. Okay, yeah. So let's just get started. So we have our first question. What grade were you when you started to, or when you began to see what you wanted to study more clearly, and how did you determine this? Are there any panelists? Yeah,
Can I answer?
yeah, for sure.
Um, I did know I wanted to be pre-med and I did know that I wanted to study math, but I would advise that most people don't know what they want to do in high school. I know so many people who have changed their major a million times between getting to college and even by the next semester have changed their major. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on that because it is accessible to just change. Me personally, I did know very early on, but don't limit yourself to being restricted to one major because it's more valuable to yourself to explore all of your different interests.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. Maria, would you also?
Yeah, I would just like to add on. I think it's really important to like kind of realize what it is you want to pursue, starting from looking at your interests, because no matter like how prestigious something sounds, if you're not interested in it, maybe you will get in, but will you be able to pursue it for 4 years and like succeed and strive at doing what you do? The answer for some people maybe no. So you got to really be interested in what you're learning. And for me personally, the way I got into kind of liking computer science was through web development. And like during COVID, I saw one of my YouTubers that I was constantly watching at that time advertise like this online school that was doing free lessons. Um, and like they would give you like a free certificate at the end. And it wasn't even like hardcore CS. It was like HTML and CSS and a little bit of JavaScript. And then when I tried that with zero previous experience and I saw myself like coding and then seeing something appear on the screen and like seeing how websites are made, I thought it was like such a big deal. And then I started like trying it on my during my free time and kind of learning more about it. And then I kind of realized that maybe web development isn't exactly what I want to do like when I am working full time, but it is definitely a good introduction into where I see myself and like what I see myself doing in the coming years. So don't force yourself into liking certain things. Like maybe see what you're interested in, and if there's potential, like work towards developing that interest because chances are it may grow into something more.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. So our next question is, any advice for scholarships and finding other awards that might help? Any panelists want to take this question? Do any panelists have any specific awards or scholarships that they received that you guys just want to put out there for other
Yeah,
people?
sure. Sorry. I can talk a little bit about that. Um, I would say there's a lot of opportunities for scholarships for sure. I would say contact your school's guidance counselor because typically all the nominating happens through the guidance counselor for the big scholarships. Um, I was nominated for a couple of them, but the main ones that I was really interested in was the Schulich Leader Scholarship, as well as the U of T National one. And there's some specific to the school as well, like Western's National Scholarship. So there's a lot. I would say Queen's Chancellors as well. So really kind of do a little bit of research into it. Also talk to your guidance counselor, because typically they should know how that works and they can give you all the information on that. I can talk a little bit about the main ones that I've received, but because the dad did play a role in deciding where I wanted to go as well. And it can play a role for a lot of people for sure. Because university is really expensive. So I would say um for the national scholarship, I believe it's like for most of them, it's like one person in the graduating batch gets nominated, I believe. So yeah, talk to your guidance counselor, see if you're fit. And then it's like a process of like you submit an application, then there's an interview stage. I know for national, for Schulich, it's a little different. It's just kind of an application um, with many components. So if you have any specific questions on those, I can definitely help out or answer them. I would say those scholarships are the ones where like you really need to like that important element of like um, being yourself because you're like directly talking to individuals who are in the university, various different positions who can kind of like truly see your character and who you are. So you really want to be yourself and those kind of things. Um, your extracurriculars and everything come into play for the scholarships for sure, because that's kind of what they mainly focus on. Who are you outside of school? Who are you outside of academics? Because now we're looking at you outside of outside of those grades, right? Um, so that's kind of the main element for those. With the national scholarship, you can do anything at U of T with it. So you don't necessarily have to go into engineering or computer science because I know for this batch, they're all really nice, all across Canada as well. In like social sciences, life sci, CS, there's a lot. So definitely, it doesn't restrict you in that sense because for Schulich, I do believe you need to either go into CS or go into engineering or something like that. So they have like it's like that. But I would say for the big ones, talk to your guidance counselor because that was a big thing for me. My guidance counselor helped me out with that. And I think some of the deadlines have passed, but I think Schulich is coming up soon. It's around January-ish. So that's a scholarship you're really interested in, go for that. I think Lauren, a couple of the other ones passed. It was like early October. But I think like apply to as many as you can. And if you have anything specific, I can probably answer that. But yeah, anything specific about Western, U of T National, Schulich, and Lauren. Probably answer that. Connect you with people who are there because everyone's super nice. So yeah, just let me know. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that insightful answer. Our next question is how is the workload different from what you had in high school? Any panelists feel like they had a specific easy or harder time adjusting compared to their classmates?
I can speak to that. So in high school, I went to like not a good high school. Like nobody has ever gone to an Ivy League, and so what I believed was like rigorous in comparison when I got to college. Um, it was definitely a shock, a culture shock, as in like with college and like adjusting. But I think that it's not, I don't want to fear monger. I think this is something that this is like a growing pain, I would say. Like in the end, you come out a better person and more sure of who you are. So for me, I had a really hard time. So I spoke to upperclassmen, I spoke to my proctors, to friends, and in the end, like now they are what make me feel good about myself and good about being here. And it's just something that you go through like with the people around you. And as you sort of grow into this environment, into the college environment, you pick up skills, sub skills that make it a lot more manageable. So I think at first it might be scary, and if you get to college and you think, wow, I'm doing terrible, um, it'll pass. The time will pass anyways, and it's something that I think you sh just have to let happen. Um, so yeah.
Thank you so much for answering that. Let's move on to the next question. What is a competitive GPA for most STEM programs? Um, if any panelists are comfortable sharing maybe what they had in high school.
I could take this one. I think there's for our program you need to have a 90 cutoff to apply, but I think that there's a misconception a lot of the time about really hitting those 99s or whatnot in order to get in. I'm Even though this is not officially disclosed by our program, most people are pretty sure that as long as you have a 90, it doesn't matter. So just making sure that you're hitting that threshold to apply, and then after that, it's really completely up to the supplementaries. Like your grade is not taken into consideration between like a 98 or a 92. So.
Thank you for sharing your insights. Yeah. Um, okay. Our next question is, how do you guys manage your time, balance academics and extracurriculars all at once? Because that is very stressful for a lot of high school students.
I guess I can quickly answer that. The answer is like really good time management. Like there's a lot of tools out there on the internet, like Notion, like a bunch of like those to-do list websites that you can use to prioritize what you want to accomplish in that day or what you want to try to get close to accomplishing in that day, and where you can track all of your assignments, everything you have to do for that week, and so on. So as long as you have it written down, and as long as every day you remind yourself, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to accomplish, these are the deadlines I have coming up. As long as you're aware of those and you find the time to do those things, I think you should be okay. Uh, Also, you have to be consistent about managing your time. You can't just like wake up one day and just stop being aware of everything that's going on and every deadline that's approaching you. You always have to be like kind of on your toes. And I guess finally, you gotta prioritize. Like there is no way around that. You only have 24 hours in a day. You need to sleep and take breaks. And obviously, you won't have enough time to do everything that you want. So figure out what's important to you and what you want to do and prioritize those things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think time management is really important. So on that note, that is all the time that we have for today. We want to thank our we wanted to share our sincerest thanks to all of our panelists for joining us today. It's really an honor to have you guys all here and for taking the time out of your busy university schedules to share your insights with high school students who are maybe looking to apply for your programs in the future. If any panelists are open to sharing their contact information in the chat, feel free or DM one of the superposition teams and we'll email that out and get that out to all of the attendees for today. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us today. We wanted to thank you all for allowing this to happen and for making this happen. We hope you guys will join us back next year for our next uni panel. And for our attendees, perhaps consider joining us at our next event. Our December case competition is coming up soon. So yeah, please look forward to that and we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if Harshita, you have anything to add?
No, that was good. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Bye-bye. Enjoy your weekends, everyone.